Police are often called upon to deal with large crowds, both at sporting events and at protests and mass demonstrations. And what we've learned is that different police forces around the world, around the United States, have vastly different levels of preparation and ability to deal with these types of events. What this chapter is about is how to develop a greater capacity in police agencies to handle crowds well. We don't want police to be too disengaged during these events like we saw in Charlottesville, and we don't want police to use too much force or to be too aggressive. And so they need to find a middle ground. And in the chapter, we outline a very specific strategic and tactical framework for how to respond to these events appropriately. Many years ago during the Occupy protests, I was teaching in a doctoral program, and several of my students were alarmed by what they were seeing around the country in terms of how police responded to these events. Although I had been studying police for my whole adult life, I had never actually looked too closely at the policing of crowds, the policing of protests. And so my students and I ended up visiting several Occupy encampments, interviewing the protesters, and eventually carrying out surveys among protesters. There's significant room for improvement worldwide in how police handle crowds, and in particular how they handle protests and mass demonstrations. And many police agencies are not doing this wisely. They're not doing it strategically. They're kind of taken by surprise. And they often end up using riot control techniques to handle mostly peaceful crowds. In the chapter, we outline a strategic framework that helps them think more clearly about how to respond to these events, both before they occur, while they're underway, and after they've gone by.